So this is Merge, our first adventure audio module. It's got a lot of fun features that Matt will go through.
Is that my cue?
That's your cue.
That's my cue. All right, so best way to think of this is really as kind of a utility toolbox for taking your guitar or some other external audio and bringing it into the modular world in a way that allows you to not only interact with these modules signal level wise, but also pulls controlling information from the dynamics of your playing. So to start, you plug in right there.
He's got a guitar, a Telecaster with a Mickey Mouse sticker plugged into the input here.
You see some lights light up even though there's no actual sound yet. So first step would be to take the gain out, and for continuation purposes of this demonstration we're going to put it into this thing that just makes copies of stuff.
Multiplier.
So there are two sections down here at the bottom that look identical, and they're meant to be an effects loop for your guitar and EURORACK back and forth. So if we wanted to go to our pedal chain, we would take this copy of the gain out, go into here, which is coming out of here and going into a whatever, and then right now returning from whatever. This lets you turn it back down level wise to pedals or other non like plus minus 12 formats, and this lets you turn it back up once it returns, and then we can go from there into our actual audio source.
Oh yeah, there we go.
There is a Dream Reaper on before entering into Merge in the first place, so that's where the dirt's coming from.
So you have your input level.
Pretty straightforward. So now that we have our in and out loops set up so that we can actually start doing some stuff, you can follow the arrows on this module to see a signal flow of what goes to where. So right now you can see that this gain out goes to a thing labeled gain send, which is going to a rectifier receive. This pair of jacks and this pair of jacks are normal together so that when nothing is plugged in, the signal just keeps on going to where it's supposed to go. You can see the light up, but if I plug into the gain send, it will break that connection. It's no longer going to the light, so that you can send the signal somewhere else before going to the next section, or you can use the next sections independently for some other idea in the patch. But for now, we'll just keep going along our merry way. So this then feeds into the section comprised of these two jacks, these two knobs, and this toggle, and that is the envelope follower section. So you can see the green LED light up whenever I hit a note. You can change the response time of that to be slower or faster. So when I let go, if I switch to a longer time, you can see it takes longer to get to full brightness and back to no light. It's a little bit quicker response, quicker still. You can even, in the maximum range, set it to be really long. You can use that to control longer effects. So
yeah, let's get a sound representation of what this envelope sounds like. So take that,
throw it into the multiple, if you wouldn't mind.
Into another mult.
Just, for later if we decide to do something with it. So most people have probably heard of a envelope filter pedal, and we can pretty much create
Is that the
same
wah-wah?
You can think of it as a wah-wah. Pretty much recreates, we can recreate that type of effect. So instead of going straight into the pedal chain right now, I'm going to take this output and I'm going to go into this filter, and then I'm going to go from the filter back to our chain. Classic filter. So now where Merge comes into play is you can control the cutoff of that filter with your envelope. hence turning it into an envelope filter. Let's get a little bit faster envelope on here so you can hear it a little more.
Play me a little of that funk.
That's as close as I can get to funk. So you can get a lot closer of a following on the shorter settings, but then if you want to crank up the amount of time it takes, you can get a lot longer of a drawn out filter speed.
Such modular. Cool. So we've made a boring envelope filter pedal. Let's do something cooler than
Right.
this.
So-
Chuck's Jenny.
Hold my beer. So we'll get the last section of merge involved in this next part. So similar to the gain send and rectifier receive, logic and envelope send are normal together. So there's a gate out and a trigger out. The only difference is that the trigger will go low without your signal going back low. So you can see those by the LEDs. These set the threshold that the envelope or whatever you plug into the logic input has to cross in order to trigger the output. So you can see the lights go off. And the gate will stay high until this signal drops below wherever you set this. So we could make it shorter, or maybe not even reach it if we set it too high. Or if we set it low, it'll be on most of the time. Trigger is very similar, has its own threshold. So we can, you know, just to keep with the theme, let's go ahead and put the trigger into the multiple also. You can never have too many copies of your signal.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll use one of those other copies now. We'll take a copy of our guitar signal. Let's replace that with a shorter
This
guy.
old boy.
Yeah, just gonna swap those out. So we're gonna take a copy of our signal. We're gonna put it into this VCA, and then we're gonna use this guy to control that VCA. You can see these lights are lighting up. This is producing a voltage that's controlling how much amplification this does to our signal. And so essentially what we're gonna make is a morphing tremolo. So now that we have that, our trigger signal, we can send that to a sequencer. And so now every time this trigger lights up, you'll also see this light up and its output will change. So now we can send that to control the speed of this puppy. And then, since we already have the filter going, we'll use the second input on the filter to mix our tremoloed signal. We gotta change the levels a little bit.
So this is just the tremoloed signal. This is with the filtered signal coming back in.
So you see, every time I hit a note and the trigger light lights up, this sequencer tells this thing we're using for the tremolo to go and do that at a different speed. So you can hear that.
So on every impulse, you're essentially changing the tremolo speed to a random voltage generated by this guy.
The cool thing about this module is that it also has multiple inputs to change the speed, so we can send a copy of that envelope that we made earlier to control part of that shape. So now the thing will change speed as our amplitude also changes at the input. You see how part of it gets a little faster as our note gets quieter? But it's still also being affected by this every time we hit a note. Oh, that's cool. I like that sound. So now we've got a filter being modulated by the amplitude of your input signal as well as this part of this tremolo effect. Sometimes it's nice to sit on a sound for a little bit. So instead of stepping this forward every time that we hit a trigger, we're going to use our other new little module.
Count.
So now every time this gets an input impulse, it will go to the next step.
Boom, 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 boom.
Which now we can use, let's pick 3. Or actually, that's number 4. We can use number so every 4th impulse will now change the tremolo. And if this thing goes fast enough, it turns into a little more of a ring mod. I almost forgot that we got the whatever in our
Yeah, so
here.
we have the whatever in the send return effects loop going on here. So
So in that envelope section that we have going on, there's also an inverted envelope, which you can use to change other modules in the opposite direction.
there goes the pick.
So we'll change the other side of our tremolo sound with our negative envelope.
Modular doesn't have to be all bleep bloops all the time. You can get merged and you can plug your guitar into your modular rack.
Or your drum machine, or your contact mics, or your
Keyboard or your
probably
whoopee cushions or
actually slap a pick a piezo into a whoopee cushion and then plug that into merge.
There you go, prank modular. Alright, we're almost at 15 minutes with this, so I guess we'll wrap it up here.
Okay. Or we just hit hit stop and keep doing this.
They'll know our plan now. Alright, I hope this explains merge a little bit better. See you next time.